Okay. So before I kickstart, I just want to share with you a short video of what our company and our team is doing. Let me just share it. All right, that is a really short introduction of what Scape and Scape Entrepreneurship and Careers does. Just some house rule before we kick off the session itself. So just to let you know that this session will be recorded for the marketing purpose and also sharing thereafter. Make sure that if you're not comfortable, you could actually exit the session, rename yourself, or even turn off the camera. Make sure that your laptop has a stable internet connection, and then we will kickstart the session. Always make this session interactive. You can either unmute yourself or even type in the chat window for the rest of the Q&As. So questions for the speakers, leave it to the Q&A later on. Right. Just give me 1 minute. And before I kickstart and hand over the session to Faye, the host for today, I'm just going to launch a very quick poll on the current audience that's joining us. All right, I'm just going to give you a few minutes.
Welcome, Ravi. Hello, Ravi. Yeah. We will start in 5 minutes. I gave a 5-minute break for the students since we were waiting for a few people. So we will start at 2:10.
So
we have another one which is also starting exactly at the same time. So
right, let's share and hand over the session to
I'll go back once your presentation finishes here.
Faye, over to you.
Okay. Yes.
So I'm just going to end the polling very shortly and share this poll with Thomas. Okay? Yep. All right, Thomas,
okay.
get the poll.
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay. Faye, over to you. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, so thank you everyone for joining us and spend your 2 hours afternoon with us on this beautiful Saturday. So basically, I will be giving a brief introduction about majors. So next slide. So majors has two entities. One is the school institute, another one is the studio. So we have been in the industry for more than 10 years in providing education and also solutions in tech and also art. Next. So, and also we are the top 50 creative school in the world. So our students, right, their game, their art has been awarded. And actually in 2019, we are the top 3 mobile application game school. Yeah. So next.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is one of the game they published in Rookie. So Rookie actually is a platform to share and allow people around the world to publish their game. So it will be awarded and also it will be certified for the professionals and also the practitioners in the market trend. Okay, next. So for us, we offer 3 different categories of program. First is a diploma, whereby we provide game art, concept art, game tech, and also others. So for everybody's information, the concept art is one of the program that we are collaborating with Ubisoft, whereby the program director is a senior concept artist in Ubisoft. Next. And other than this, we also provide career transition program whereby the training will be conducted for 6 months to assist more non-IT personnel in to convert into industry tech specialists. So these are the 3 programs that we provide. XR Immersive, whereby you will learn about augmented reality and virtual reality. Data science, which is the next Thomas will share portion about what will be learned in this data science. And last but not least, it will be the full stack web development, whereby you'll be able to learn how to create a fully functional website and web application. Next. Yeah, so of course, we also offer short classes for people who would like to ask you based on interest or based on curiosity, what is right now, what is the trend, what is the market. So for short classes, we are divided into 2 types. One is the tech, another one is the art. For all these short classes, right, it is supported by Skill Future, whereby you can utilize your Skill Future credit, you can utilize your PSCA, and also you can utilize your tab. And the grant available is up to 90%. Yes, so this is a tag. The next slides, we will show some of the example of our art short courses. Yeah, so these are some of the art short courses. So these short courses, right, we give you an exposure, like learn the basic how to draw character, or learn the basic how to use ZBrush or Photoshop. Yeah. So next, so I will right now introduce our key speaker for today, Thomas. So Thomas has been in our school for quite some time already. So he also teach our students about Python. So right now, for everybody who joined us today, right, we have the opportunity to learn from Thomas. Thomas is a practitioner, and he is a very patient. So I hope that everybody will enjoy the session. So before I hand over these sessions into to Thomas, just stay with us. If you have any questions, as Alice said, you can always post your questions in the chat, or you can turn on your audio to voice up. And also, we also have a one session about Q&A, whereby you can ask any questions to Thomas. Yeah, so do stay with us, and also I hope that you will enjoy the session. So Thomas, I will hand over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Faye. Okay, so this is what I plan to go through this afternoon. So just give a quick introduction to myself, then discuss a little bit. We're going to be focusing on Tableau as our data visualization mechanism this afternoon. So by the end of the afternoon, you should have some sense of how to use Tableau in order to make your presentation of your data easier to understand, and why visualization is actually an important part of that. I'm not going to get into, I also teach the data analytics side of it, how to process raw data and et cetera, but I'm not going to get into that this afternoon. If you are interested in that, as Faye mentioned before, we do have a number of programs specifically focusing on that. So I'll just give an introduction to data visualization, give you some good basic principles of how to get your data to get your graphs and charts to come across. Then what we're going to do, the last hour of today's session, we're going to actually be working through a process where we actually connect to some data. We actually make a worksheet with some charts on it. Then we create a dashboard with it. And then we create a story with our dashboard. And finally, we put it up on the public Tableau board, okay, which is available. Okay, so hopefully this will give you the kind of background you need in order to do the kind, not exactly sure what you want to do with it. I also teach or have been teaching game business design and also marketing for games as well. So entrepreneurship, et cetera, this sort of fits in with this entrepreneurship stuff we're doing. So I can sort of see where this would fit in that type of business environment. Anyway, just quickly about myself, just wait a second. Yeah, I have to change the thing. Okay, I got a lot of experience. I'm actually older than I, even older than I look. I did start out in when I was still in university. I started out working with computers. At that point, I was working with computers for music. We had this synthesizer, music synthesizer, and we were learning different ways of programming it, etc. Then after I left university, I began to work for computers for the business field, where there's a fair, I mean, this is really the early days, well before graphs and charts and stuff like that. So we had to design a lot of data reports. Then I worked from there into computers for education. And then after about 10 years and that or so, I went into computers for engineering. I worked on the high-speed rail in Taiwan and the fare collection system, and worked with a very large engineering contract. Then I came to Singapore, and ever since I came to Singapore about 15 years ago, I've been primarily teaching. So I teach introductory programming, programming in Python, programming in C#, programming in Java, pretty much you name it, I've got that. Then I also been teaching, this sort of relates to data analytics, database concepts, how to organize your data, how to get it to work within a relational database environment. And then, of course, with Mages for about good 10 years now, I've been teaching game design, in generally introductory game design. We make board games so that you can learn about the fundamental rules of how a game goes together. And then, of course, also, as I mentioned before, I've been teaching about game business, game documentation, pretty much everything having to do with the periphery of the actual core game experience. Okay, that's generally my background in that. So what then gives me basically the gravitas or whatever to talk to you guys about data analytics is that I just as part, right from the very beginning, I've been doing a lot of number crunching and just trying to understand what data means given the tools that I've got, whether it's in business, whether it's in education, whether it's in engineering. All cases, there's all sorts of trends you need to look for. There's all sorts of ways that you have to determine what is really going on when you have effectively just a set of numbers to work with. Okay, so I've been doing data analytics. I enjoy doing it. Like during the COVID time, I set up my own little database and I was tracking to see what was going on, trying to get a sense of trends, trying to get a sense of when peaks would happen. And this is an exponential, you're dealing with exponential numbers, which is quite a different fish than dealing with just linear numbers. Okay, so that's just sort of my background. Let me now get into discussing oops, keep pressing the wrong buttons. Okay, first off, yeah, get into Tableau. Tableau is our vehicle for doing the data visualization. So this is just to let you know, this lecture is going to be interspersing this through this afternoon's talk, is really a very, very, very short version of our short course called Storytelling with Data. I highly recommend that. If today piques your interest in doing it, I highly recommend that module. It really gives you a good grounding in using Tableau to do that. And if you're even more interested in that, then some of our data analytics modules would be also interested in that. Okay, so there are various versions of Tableau. I'll be using the one called Tableau Pro, which is a paid version. So it's got a few features that the unpaid version doesn't have. But as far as we're concerned for today's exercise, the unpaid version called Tableau Public is just suitable for what we want to do. That one is free. You guys hopefully have been downloading it. Just to let you know, while between the time that Alice first sent out the notice for this meeting and now Tableau has come up with a new version of Tableau Public, 2021.2. But I've checked it out and it's actually almost exactly the same for us. So it's not going to affect anything we're doing today. So don't worry if you got 2021, 20.1 or 2021.2, it's not going to make a difference. Okay, finally, Tableau is trying to move into the online market. So, I mean, it's actually online pretty much anyway, but they wanted see if they can actually get Tableau to work online. So the online version of Tableau, while it's free, it actually doesn't work that well, especially if you have a weak internet connection. It can lose connection to your data quite easily. Okay, but just to let you know, that is another option you can look at, especially if you, as I say, you have a very good internet connection. Okay, so for today, if you want to do the download, this is the information that we sent out earlier in the week. You can go to the download screen for Tableau. They need your email address. It's not going to be used for a lot. You can actually opt out of their marketing stuff if you want to. You just download it, follow the installation instructions, and Alice has put that up there in the chat for us. Okay. Now, the key difference between Tableau Pro, which is what I'm going to be using to show you, and Tableau Public is that you can't save your work to your local hard disk. The only place you can save your work once you've done it is in this public space on the internet. So that's what we'll be doing today. If you need to save local copies, then it may be worthwhile investing in the Pro version. Now, I've also created a data source, and that is also shown on our message, and that is a Google file, an Excel spreadsheet, and we're going to be using that Excel spreadsheet to show our data. But before we get to that, let's do some theory. Okay, so I'm going to give you a very quick introduction to data visualization. Okay, I'm sorry this is a little bit fuzzy, but we look at some data, right? So as data analysts, we can look at the data, we check to see, okay, can we notice anything in terms of the data? So what we notice here, for example, we can see visually that most of the X's are the same, except for one that's way out. I think there's one of them, most of the Y's are almost the same, except one that is a little bit out there, okay? But really, we can't see that much about the data. So what do we do in data analytics? The very first thing we do is try and run some statistical analysis on it. So we go, we check it out. We check out what's the mean value. Okay, the mean value of X is 9. Oh, second one, also 9. Third one, also 9. Fourth one, also 9. Hey, okay, and Y is also, variance is always the same. Okay, and then the mean and variance of Y, look at that, all the same. Correlation is the same. Linear regression is the same. So what's different about these numbers, right? Of course, there's some difference, right? And then we look at it visually. And what do we see? Whoa, okay, this is what's called, this is a special group of numbers called Antscomb's Quartet. And it's just used to show you that things, the normal statistical analysis can't pick up certain trends in data that we can pick up immediately when we see it visually. Okay, so if you are, let's say for people who want to invest in your entrepreneur company that you're starting up, or you want to give across some sort of story about what is going on, visualizing your data is important. Okay, it's important to know, remember, because I also teach the game business, which is a very nice short course, by the way. You really should invest in that one. We go into doing your 5-year planning charts and so forth like that. And we also demand that you make a visual presentation, not just simply give us some data. Okay. So why visualize? It's not just a personal preference. Okay, I think that kind of shows in the previous set of slides. Okay, we talk in education about people being visually oriented versus people being audio oriented versus people being hand oriented. It's not related to that. Okay, it's a necessity. Okay, and there's certain kinds of things can only be found when we visualize. Okay, so the first step should always be to look at it visually. Actually, that's not quite true. Coming from data analytics point of view, the first thing is to clean your data. But once you clean, you got it clean enough that you can actually look at it. You know what you're looking at. You're comparing apples to apples. Then the next thing to do is to look at it visually, because our brain can pick up all sorts of critical rules in terms of what's going on. Okay, so pictures generally are retained at higher rates than words. Okay, so good visualization. The key concept we're talking about here is pre-attentive versus attentive. I'll get into that in a moment. This is all related to what we call time to insight. So way back in the old days when I was first doing business, we had to prepare reports for these business owners. A lot of them were entrepreneurs, small business owners, and they were getting into computers for the first time. And they really wanted a lot of data. So I had this guy, he would look at this kind of chart over, and he spent hours poring over these kind of charts. Okay, it's what we call attentive processing. We don't have that time anymore. So we need something to help people along. So if we wanted to know which are the 5 highest revenue producing regions, we'd actually have to study this quite closely to figure out which one is the highest. But if we had color, it makes a big difference, doesn't it? Then immediately pops out which one is which. Okay, so it focused our brain. We didn't have to do mental calculations. Okay, and even then, we don't even need to know the numbers. We just want to know the top 5. Okay, so product D, Northeast, etc. This kind of visualization simplifies everything. And that's a very good principle of visualization. Okay, how many 9s are there? Okay, it's a rhetorical question. It'll take you a little bit of time to try and figure it out. It's kind of difficult to count them. You'd actually have to manually count them. But if I added color, ta-da, much easier to see. Okay, so the visualization really helps with that. Okay, just by the way, 8% of men worldwide are colorblind. In other words, when the sign says stop, they don't know whether it's stop or go. I mean, they know by position, but they don't know by color. Okay, so for that reason, it's a good practice to avoid red, green palettes, even though for the 82% of us, or 92% of us who are not colorblind, red, green is the one that has the most meaning associated, but it's helpful if you're working a chart that's going to be seen by a lot of people, or somebody very important that you don't know might be colorblind. don't go with red, green. Okay, for continuous data, in other words, data that changes by fractions, color ramps are very effective. Color ramp is just simply the graduation of color from one into another. Okay, don't have too many colors. Should keep under 5. This is my own personal peeve. I see this over and over again. They give me a chart and they tell me, you know, here's the figure for this particular country. And I can't tell looking at the chart what the value is for that country. It's just too many colors. Okay, be kind to your reader. Okay, so here we go. This type of chart drives me nuts, right? All I see here is a big blob. It doesn't really help that much. So it's better to even just to use just a few colors, focus on one thing. What's really nice, and I'll show you, is you can actually filter out and pick up particular colors. Okay, another thing that we don't. Oh, I know there's a couple of people here anyway who signed up for this module who know graphics. So this will all be new stuff that you know already, but colors are relative. Shading is relative. This color and this color are exactly the same shade. Okay, it's relative. We deal with colors by what surrounds them. Okay, going. Okay, so we have what we call diverging palettes. So the palette goes from one color to another color through a third color. So this makes it a lot easier to see what is going on, what's in the middle, what's on either end. Okay, few more best practices to keep into that. Okay, wow, look at this. Okay, everyone can read text even if the letters are scrambled. Interesting, eh? Didn't know that. The only thing that matters is that the first and last letters are in the right places. Just has to be with the way that we process words, right? So that's what French Connection UK, they understood this aspect and they created their logo, which of course you can't say in polite company because they recognize this particular thing. They can switch around the letters and people know exactly what they mean. Okay, so that's the brain works on iPod. Okay, here we go. Most effective. Okay, here we go. The most effective pie charts we have seen. Hello, my name is blank. Okay, there we go. Japan, right? It's not a pie chart. It's a picture of the Japanese flag. Okay. Pie charts in general are really bad practices. I know that they are very common here. No matter where you go in the world, they're especially appropriate, but they're not actually a good idea. The reason is we human beings do not have the ability to visually determine the difference between this pie slice and that pie slice. They look about the same. So we don't know, if you're asked without the numbers, which one is bigger, you don't know. Okay. So the only thing worse designed than a pie chart is a lot of them. Okay. Okay. Everybody likes them, right? You can do all sorts of wonderful visualization. You can make an actual pie. You can do it 3-dimensional, right? Excel gives you all sorts of stuff like that, right? But it is actually difficult to compare. Here's a bad one, okay? Wow, okay, what on earth is going on here, right? It's really, you look at it, if you like attentive data processing, you spend a lot of time being attentive to it, but that's not what we're talking about. What we need is for you to be able to get across your data as quickly and as effectively as possible. Don't push the brain cells of your audience any more than you need to. Okay, that way you can get more information with more information across with the same amount of brain cell activity. Okay, I'm not saying dumb down your audience. I'm saying don't waste their brain cells. Okay, if you do it this way, then it's quite obvious what's going on. right? We can see the difference between August and, well, okay, again, that's another problem we'll get to in a second, January. So we see that it's quite obvious which one is bigger, which one is smaller, because our human brains have the ability to do that. That's why I actually really like the current COVID charts that MOH is putting out. Because you just simply glance at it and you can see the trends over time. Okay, it's very handy, very helpful kind of chart. If they tried to do a bar chart or try to do any other type of chart, it really wouldn't work. Okay, here we go. Some examples of Singapore of people using bar charts. Okay, this one here is from Straits Times, the printed edition. What I found is quite curious. The online edition of Straits Times has actually got some very good data analytics visualizations. They're actually quite good at it. The printed version, however, because of the way print works, the way layout, I mean, I've done tons of things besides computers. I used to work in a newspaper. I used to be a reporter, and then I did the layout for the newspaper. So we learned all these things about how difficult it is to get stories to fit, stories and pictures and graphics to all fit on a page. So they went with this, but this is a donut chart. You can't tell really, unless you look closely at the numbers, what has grown and what hasn't grown. Okay, so this type of chart is definitely not a good chart. This one here is actually wrong. Okay, if you didn't see the numbers, wouldn't you think that Buddhists actually present more than half of Singapore, right? But it's not, it's only 31%. This is very weird kind of chart. And this was on Channel News Asia. Okay, just letting you know some examples for pie charts. The better advantage if you want to do a pie chart is what we call a tree map. Okay, anyone from Straits Times here? You're doing the print, guys, Straits Times. Don't take umbrage, okay? You can use tree maps instead of pie charts for your graphics. They fit square, right? So you have the same square aspect of it, but it's actually easier for people to see the percentages, our brains to understand, okay? If you have a relationship, scatter plot is one of the best ways of doing it. Okay, here we go with the problem with the January, February, March, is that to read it, you sort of have to turn sideways, okay? Now you're not all spending brain cells, you're actually muscles as well, okay? So it's much better if you have a fair amount of text in your thing to actually do your charts horizontally. So that's just simply good practice or best practice for that. Okay, now just quickly back from the item, we want to get back into a couple of terminology. It's very helpful to know this in terms of what type of data is what. Okay, there are two primary categories of data. One's called quantitative, which are numbers that we do mathematical operations with. So we can do things like average weight. We can do things like average cost or total cost. We can do things like minimum discount, maximum discount. Okay, now we get to qualitative. Okay, so qualitative are ways of compartmentalizing our data. Okay, compartmentalizing the data. So we have two different types of qualitative. One is called categorical, which is completely qualitative. So there's no relationship. They're just names of categories, but there's no actual relationship. You can't say Arizona is more Arizona than New York. I mean, more X. You can't say anything like that, right? You can't say, what's the average of Arizona, New York, and Texas? You can't say anything, right? So Sarah, John, Maria can't say average of at well. Okay, so these are what we call categories. Now, there's a subset of categories which we call ordinals. Okay, these ones here are sort of related, right? We can sort of put them in order. Okay, they put them in order, but we don't know why the difference between gold, silver, silver, bronze. Okay. For example, if I had 5 bronzes, is that the same as 1 silver? If I had 3 silvers, is that the same as 1 gold? Right? We know the order, but we don't know the distance between the individual items. Excellent, good, and poor. Again, that is a thing. And then this good health also is a range of items as well. So then we got love it, like it, hate it. So these are what we call ordinal. We can put them in order, but we don't know the difference. Now, here's an interesting thing. Okay, you know, when you guys, anyone take Grab, right? Or Airbnb or any of the ones like that, even Food Panda, all of them, they all use these rating systems, right? So you get in a car, let's say a Grab car, or you book the Grab car, and it tells you that the driver has 4.3 stars. Okay, so he has 4.3 stars. Actually, when you think about it, and you actually realize stars are ordinal things. They are not quantitative things. You can't, technically, you should not be able to take the average star rating, because the difference between 1 star and 2 stars is not the same as the difference between 2 stars and 3 stars, and between 3 stars and 4 stars, between 4 stars and 5 stars. They are not set at exact intervals. And in fact, the intervals are different depending on who is actually answering the survey. Okay, but because it's been in practice so long, and because a whole pile of sociologists would be out of work if you couldn't do it, then it's sort of people who are sticklers like me are told to turn a blind eye to that particular thing. Anyway, just to let you know, because in Tableau, it's quite important to know whether your data is going to be quantitative or qualitative. And in terms of qualitative, can it be ordered? Okay, for the visualize guys can tune out for the moment. These are just some standard visual things that people recognize. They recognize different lengths. They recognize different widths. They recognize if something is askew. They can change. They can identify different sizes. They can identify different shapes as long as the differences are very few. They can identify curved versus straight items. We have this concept of enclosure, meaning that things that are enclosed in either a background color change or a physical border stand out to us, so we can identify that. Then if you have, again, things in 2-dimensional, we can tell the difference in the dimensional. So that's sort of like length, isn't it? Then we can tell if things are grouped together. That's for scatter plots. Can see if the items are grouped together. Color or hue, in other words, also saturation, intensity. Okay, so we have saturation or intensity here. So the changes of color in terms of where it is in the color spectrum, and the changes of color in terms of darkness versus lightness are all things that you can use to draw attention, to basically do pre-attentive processing on your visualization. Okay, now we go back to, okay, so we saw that, right? Okay, we saw the 2 theoretical parts, the types of data, and then the pre-attentive visual attributes. So which ones work best with which? Okay, so if you're talking about categorical, then position works quite well. Ordinal position works even better. Shape categorical is pretty good as long as there's not too many categories. And size works quite well for ordinal. And for categorical, different colors, very good. As again, not too many colors, no more than 5. Color intensity works quite well for ordinal, but intensity doesn't work for categorical because intensity tells the viewer that these items are related, some sort of in terms of order, and they're not. Okay, different colors also work for ordinal as well, and then shape as well. Now we get to numbers. Position is very good for numbers. Length is very good for numbers. Size is very good for numbers. And color intensity, okay, also work as well. Okay. Okay, so you should use filled maps, okay, for defined areas. Okay, so filled maps is very good if you're you're trying to represent stuff geographically. We're going to go against this in today's thing. We're actually going to be making not a filled map, but a map with circles, because in fact, we're going to have two measures, but you'll see that it's okay. It's not as good as a filled map with just one measure. Then we can see the various items. Okay, so we can see here from using the color intensity that where things are concentrated and where things are distributed. Okay, so filled maps don't usually work for multiple measures. Sometimes they work, but usually they don't, unless the measures are related, and I'll show you that in our example in the second half of today's. Okay, but just to say, these are things that are available. So from a general point of view, again, if you come and take the storytelling with data course, we'll go into a lot more detail about this. You'll get the sense of what works with what doesn't work with what, and you'll get to see what it looks like with all sorts of different types of data. So if this piques your interest, again, sign up for the short course. Very handy. Just 36 hours, not a lot. 10 lectures of 3 hours each, and then a little bit of another 6 hours homework. Okay, now, key thing is the 5-second test. You know what's going on in 5 seconds. Okay, so this one is actually considered a reasonably good one because you can see that immediately finding Bigfoot, you sort of have a sense of what it is actually showing. Okay, I don't know what the colors represent, but should be within 5 seconds, you should be able to see what is going on. That's a very good, handy way of designing your charts. Okay, this is what we call a dashboard. A dashboard is a combination of charts. Okay, so this map is a chart. This one here is a chart. This is some information. There's some more information there, and that one on the bottom is a chart. And even the table at the very bottom is also a chart. Okay, so most important view should go on the top or top left, and legends go near their views, not a long way from the views. And don't mess with different color schemes on one dashboard. Okay, try not to have too many views in your dashboard. Interactivity, which I'll show you how to do this afternoon, is also very handy. Okay, so if you're going to be doing looking at, let's say you're working in your company and you're the one who's in charge of doing the data visualizations. Let's say you're going for your funding, or you want to present something to your shareholders, or you're trying to get across some information about your company in your social media or website. Okay, so your first 5 questions really worth asking yourself. What question am I actually trying to answer? What problem am I trying to show the solution for? Is this really the best way? Is there a better way to display this information? Okay. Do I have stuff on the chart that is there just for show, just for decoration? Okay. So minimalism is actually very good in a chart. Anything that is there on your chart takes up attentive processing. And as I said, you don't want to waste brain cells of your audience. Okay. Is there any functional interactivity? Okay. This is the way things are going. I mean, personally, I find a little bit frustrating with reading Straits Times or looking at their websites is that all their graphics are non-functional. I can't interact with the graphics. So I can't do my own delving. I can't do my own assessment of, oh, maybe this is the actual trend. Maybe this is the actual cause. Or what effect does this item have on it? Okay, so functional interactivity is something that Tableau provides very well and is really almost a requirement, pretty much a requirement of any type of thing where you actually are working with your audience. And then is everything clearly labeled? Okay. Do I know what the letters, do I know what the colors mean? Do I know what the size means, etc.? Okay, those are all questions to consider. Okay, so here we go. This is a graphic from the US from 2014. Okay, so this is before when, well, okay. Doesn't even have, see, this doesn't even have Donald Trump in here. Okay, so this lets you know where it is actually. This is when these people were running for president of the United States as Republicans, and these people were running for president of the United States as Democrats. Okay, so you can ask yourself, how does this improve? So we have to ask, what problem are we actually trying to solve? Okay, is this the best way? Are there better ways to do it? Does everything in here add value? Is there clear functional interactivity? And functionally, does everything fit together? And are there clear labels? So we see here, the problem that this is trying to answer is Facebook sentiment data. What kind of problem is that, right? Obviously, the title isn't identifying what it's actually adding. Okay, we have all these stars here, the Republican stars, Democrat stars. Things are in, there's no common graphic scheme to it. So you're reading each one differently. And sometimes a little bit hard to see what is going on. Okay, so how can we fix that? This is one way to fix it, is to go with bar charts rather than pie charts, so we can see a little bit more clearly where everybody fits. Okay, so the title now clearly addresses the question, and then the bar charts are cleaner. Labels, you get more information with the labels, and then we also sort the bars. Okay. If you're interested, I'll show you some sites at the end of the thing, but if you're interested in politics and good graphics for politics, there's a website called 538. Actually, it's all spelled out, 538, which is, they do sports, but they also do a lot of politics, and they're very, very good at using graphics, visual graphics, to get across a lot of information easily. Okay, so we've come to the end of the first portion of our presentation. So we're going to take just a 5-minute break, 6-minute break, and at 2:55. Okay, so 2:55, we're going to start with a walkthrough of Tableau. If you haven't downloaded Tableau, and oops, look at the wrong thing. If you haven't downloaded Tableau, Alice just posted again the information, and you can download it and get a file. Okay, we'll see you guys at 2:55.
Meanwhile, if you have any problems with the data, you can get the TA to help you.
Yes, that's correct. You can find our TAs because they have a TA beside them. Okay. See, we have TA Bernie and should have TA Jeff. Okay, And while we're breaking, any questions from anyone about this first part? Okay, it's 2:55. Okay, we can get started again. Okay, so the first part, as I said, was primarily theory and a little bit of practical in terms of what you can do. So we're going to switch now and go into the pure practical part. Okay, so once you've downloaded and installed your Tableau, when you open up your Tableau, you see something like this. Okay, so it's a little bit, yours would be a little bit different than mine. Mine is the professional version. The the key thing is when you start up, your very first thing you need to do is connect. Okay, so that's the first process that's involved. Tableau can read quite a bit of different data. It can read stuff off a Tableau server. Okay, it can read stuff. Primarily, we use Excel files as our input, but it also has comma separated values or tab separated values, etc. All are in text files. It can read JSON files. It can read a PDF file. A spatial file is a file that contains geographic data. Okay, so it contains geographic data. And then we have statistics as well. Okay, what else? Oh, this just shows you all the possible ones. Don't get to see different types. Okay, now in terms of servers, Tableau has a very, very large number of different servers that it can attach to. Most cases, I don't think, depending on where you are in terms of entrepreneurship, you would actually be needing much of this. But we have things like, these are all the installed ones, and you can actually get more if you wanted. So it can connect to Dropbox, it connects to Firebird, Google Drive, Google Sheets. You can pull stuff directly off Google Sheets, MySQL, Oracle, of course, Postgres. Okay, Postgres is the good free version, free, full-featured free database. So that's very handy. And then it's got other ones which are different connections. Okay, so just giving you an idea of the very large number of possible connections. But what we're going to do is we're going to connect to an Excel file. So you should have downloaded the Excel file and probably sitting somewhere in your downloads folder. And the one we're looking for, it should be called Global Superstore .xls. Okay, global superstar.xls. Of course, it doesn't have to be the old format Excel. Tableau's quite happy with the new format XLSX, but this is just the one that we are working with. It's a piece of canned data which allows us to get data sites. Okay, so I just clicked on the file and I get to open. Now I'm at the first spot. Some people get stuck here. In fact, new Tableau people generally get stuck here, even though it says drag tables here, right? You don't say, what is it talking about? Okay, so we have a connection, which is our connection into our data source. Then we have, within our data source, we can have multiple tables. Now, a table in Excel is the same as a worksheet. Okay, so if we looked at it in Excel, we'd see there's a worksheet called orders. There's another worksheet called people and another one called returns. So when it says drag tables here, we just click on the orders, just drag it into here. Okay, and then it goes and looks at our data. Okay, it shows you all the information that is in our data so we can take a look and see what is there. Now, if I want to connect tables together, I can just simply drag another table into the thing. And notice there's this line, eh? Okay, there's this line coming up. Now, the orders and the people table are joined in a relationship. I'm not going to get into the details of relationship. Again, if you want to know that, you have to come and take the short course. But just to say that I can now know for the orders, given a particular region, I can now know the people in that region, or the person who's responsible for that region. Okay, so that's the orders and the salesperson responsible. Now let's do returns. Same way, we just pick it up, we see a line, okay, it's going to connect, and we just drag it in like that. Now, this one is different because we have market, which also is here in our main one, and we have order ID, which is also in our main one. So here we have to know a little bit about the data and what we want to do with the data in order to figure out how we want to join the tables together. And we realize that this data is just simply all the returns for a particular order ID. So when I put order ID from both tables, then the two are now connected. Okay, I could connect it with market if I wanted to, and that would mean different data. Okay, all okay? Good. Okay, let's move on then. Now we've got our data. Okay, so we got our data. We can start now doing some visualization. Notice down here, it's giving us a clue about what it wants to do next, which is go to worksheet. Okay, so we're going to go to the worksheet, and now we see a bunch of different things on our worksheet. Okay, here we see data. Okay, so from data, we have our tables, our people, and our return table. Orders, people, and returns tables, all there. Now it's broken up into two parts. Now remember what I was saying in the first part about the difference between categorical and ordinal, categorical and numeric data. Okay, which is that one is what we call a dimension. So these ones all are text and geographic information. So these are all dimensions. These are all categories. But down here, we have a bunch of numerics, which are all our numeric data. Okay, discount, profit, quantity, sales, shipping cost. And this one here is a special field created by Tableau, which counts the number of orders in a particular category. Okay, same thing. People just has people and region, and market, order ID, and returned. Okay, so we see here that we have the two different types of data. So now in remember I mentioned it's important to Tableau because how Tableau deals with numeric data is different than how Tableau deals with categorical data or dimension, what it calls dimensional data. Okay, so let's say as typical marketing people, we're interested in sales. Okay, so we're interested in sales. So I just went up and I dragged it up into the top part of my thing. Again, there's multiple ways to do things. I just dragged this into a blank area down here to get rid of it. I could have done the same thing by dragging it right up to the columns. This thing is, by the way, it's called a pill. Okay, it's called a pill because it looks like a pill, capsule pill. Okay, so it's our columns. So we see here that we have a total of $12.6 million in sales. Now, obviously, as someone who's looking at the data, we want to break that data down. Okay, so why don't we break that data down by category? Okay, up here, there's category. So we're going to break it down by category. How do I do that? I just drag the category into the rows, and now we have a bar chart. Okay, we have a bar chart. So we have a bar chart that represents the sales, the total sales, and broken up by category. Over here, we have a thing called show me. Okay, the show me thing here shows us the different types of visual outputs that are available. So Tableau is pretty smart. It decides based on the type of data you're doing, where you put the data, which type of chart is the most appropriate. So it decided that a bar chart was the most appropriate. We could override that to a regular old-fashioned table. We could do a, okay. Yes, it sounds like JL is using the Tableau Online. This is one of the problems with Tableau Online. Okay. So, JL, are you sure that you're using the Orders Plus Global Superstore? Yeah. Okay. So JL, just follow along and see, and we can come back. Okay. So in the data source, you should have seen these three. Okay. You drag these up, and then you drag this one. If you have any stars here or any asterisk, that could mean that things are not properly connected. Okay, so that would give you that error possibly. Okay, so so there's our data. So we're going through the different types. There's a vertical bar chart. Okay, so the category. So now our total sales is broken up by category as a height bar chart. Then we have, this is what we're talking about, the what is better than a pie chart is a tree map. Okay, then we have another type there that's possible. Okay, we have other things which are not possible because Tableau says you don't have the appropriate items and it tells you why. Okay, we have this one. Okay, we have this one. And so forth. Okay, so we have different types of charts, and what type of chart we have is dependent on the data that we're trying to show. Okay, so want to undo things, we can just go backwards like that. Control Z, undo, 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 and there we are back at our previous one. Okay, so now the whole advantage of Tableau is, okay, so the whole advantage of Tableau is that we can show more than one thing at one time. I can sort it very quickly and find out that technology, furniture, and office supplies are my three top selling. I mean, in terms of technology, sells more than furniture, sells more than office supplies. So visually, I get that information immediately. Then, now watch what happens. I'm going to drag profit to color. So I pick up the profit, I drag it up, and I drop it in this, what we call a shelf. Okay, we put it there, and we're putting it in color. Now, the color is shown as a, so this shows the sum of the profit from a very light color to a very dark color. See that? Very light color to a dark color. So immediately now we have an insight. We can actually see that something is wrong with furniture. So let's say we wanted to go delve down into that. Okay, so I can just click on it, click on furniture, and it asks us, do we want to keep it? So we're going to keep only furniture. So now we're just looking at furniture. Okay, got that? So I clicked on it, I select keep only. Now we're looking at furniture. So I want to delve down into furniture. So we have category here. Subcategory obviously is something underneath category. So how do I deal with that? Okay, I can just drag it up here to beside category and then watch what happens. Now it breaks up furniture into the subcategories. Okay, and we can again see that chairs are the highest selling item, bookcase is second, tables are third, but look, we're losing money on tables. Okay, and furnishing is not quite sure. Okay, so do you see how we're doing this? We can actually do our insights as we're building the data. Okay, so I can pick then a particular subcategory of tables, and I can say I only want to keep tables. Okay, so now I'm keeping tables, and there's my profit minus or loss minus 64,000. So again, I can do another subcategory. And under subcategory is actually product name. That's the one that's underneath. You sort of have to know the data in order to know why, what is under what, but you can play around with the data and see. Wow, now I can see a lot of interesting things going on. I can see, wow, the conference table is our biggest seller, but it's also losing money. Okay, the computer table losing a lot of money. Okay, whereas the Chromecraft computer, this particular computer table, don't sell as many of them, but we make a good profit on them. So we now have a fair amount of information that we can access. Now, we've done that as sort of like programmers. Now, in general, if you know anything about programming, you know the general skill of programming is that you want to make things as generic as possible so that they can be used by the user of your program in whatever ways they want. So let's just say, for example, this subcategory, we wanted this subcategory broken out or that the user can change it. So all we have to do, this is our filter here, which is said we're only looking at this. I do show filter. Now, all the subcategories come up and we can look at each one of the subcategories and see what is going on. Okay, no paper. Oh, I have to pick the subcategories here. I'm just gonna get rid of this one. Okay, now we only got subcategories, a little bit easier. Okay, so now we can look at paper. Now we see what's going on with paper. It automatically sorts it, automatically colors it, all that stuff. Accessories, we can see what's going on with accessories and so forth. But notice that I have to double click, right? I have to click once to turn it on, click to turn the other on. Wouldn't it be easier if I just had like a little drop down list and I could pick the one that I wanted? Very easy to do. Okay. So we click on this little down arrow beside at the edge of our subcategory right there, and we can change it to a single value drop down. Okay, so it's a single value drop down. Now I can just pick the one that I'm interested in. Fasteners, furnishings, tables. Okay, see that? So we can now make our chart a little bit more interactive. And by the interactivity, that will allow the person who is using our chart to find out more information. Sounds good? Okay, everybody managed to get to something like this. Okay, I think we're all okay. We managed to get to something like this, where we have our column is the sum of sales, but the color is the sum of the profit. Then we have our dimensions. We broke it down by category, by subcategory, and then by product name. Okay. Now I'm going to make another chart. Just hold on a sec. Okay, so I'm going to make another chart. And that chart, so how do I make a new chart? Sort of like Excel, right? Very similar to Excel. We see this one is called sheet 1. So down here, there's another one just beside it, which says new worksheet. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. Now I have a new worksheet. Now, I'm very interested where my profits and sales are coming from. So I take country, right? I can just drag it, see drop field here, or I can double click it. Watch what happens when I double click. Wow, comes up with a map. That's because we have this little map symbol right beside it. So Tableau knows that if I select this one, it will generate the longitude and latitude correctly and put our country here as our category. So this identifies all the countries where we do business in our global superstore. But we're not interested in that. What we're interested in is sales. Okay, so I'm going to drag sales not to color, but I'm going to drag it to size. Now it shows which countries have bigger sales and which have smaller sales. Okay, which ones have bigger sales and which ones have smaller sales. So it's quite noticeable. I mean that the North America, United States, 2.2 million. That's where primarily the business is, and China as well, 700,000, India, 589,000, etc. So you see, I can determine which country has more sales and which has fewer sales. Okay, interested in Singapore, Malaysia? Wow, I can actually pick up Singapore from the main map. That's unusual. Usually it's kind of hard to. If it is, guess what? You can zoom in very easily. Just doing like that. If I want to move around on the map, then I use the shift key. So I hold down the shift key, as it changes to those squares. Then I can just press down my mouse and drag it across to pan it to area. Then I can zoom in on that area and see a little bit more clearly. Right? Okay, zoom in. Can we see scape? Oops. Where are we? Yeah, there's orchard. Nope, can't see scape. Okay. But okay, so the map has got interactivity, which helps understand the situation a lot better. Okay, now I'm going to do something that I said in the first part is not a good idea, but it does help in our situation because these are all sales, right? Oops, shift and move it down. Our big question is, where do our profits come? So I'm going to drag profit into color. Now I have a two-part thing, which I have the profit, the size is the sales, and the color is the profit. That really doesn't tell us too much, except that, of course, Turkey stands out. Something is going on with Turkey. Okay, we lost $98,000 in Turkey. Okay. We also lost money in Philippines. Yeah, lost 16,000 in Philippines. Okay, so we now have an interactive map. So the interactive map has the latitude and longitude of each country, and it has a sum of profits and sum of sales. So the profit is the size, sales is the size, and profit is the color. Okay. Again, in the detail course, the short course, I give you a lot more information on all the different things you can control. You can control the color scheme, for example, choose a different color scheme that works out better. There's a list of all the sunrise, sunset, set diverging. Okay, so that gives you an idea. You can change the size. Just a sec. Right click. So I don't have to right click. Put it back. Automatic. Okay, so we have changing the size. You can change, make things a little bit bigger. Then it becomes, you see what I mean? Very good. You can actually put labels on if you wanted to. You can add more. Details is how it does the categorization. So you could break it down in terms of detail. Okay, so I could put a subcategory. Okay, now it's broken down by subcategory. Not very handy for what we want to do. Okay, so everybody okay with this now? So I've shown you two different types of charts. The first type of chart is a bar chart, and then the second type of chart is a map chart. Okay, what's going on? Because I pulled it in and then I pulled it out. Okay, let's change the size. Nice. Okay, so we have, okay, so got a nice chart like that. It's quite clear what's going on, where things are. Make the size just a little bit smaller. There we go. Okay, so we have our nice two charts. So these are what we call charts. Okay, very similar to worksheets in Excel, but each one represents a different chart. Now, if we were putting charts together, okay, now we're going to put charts together into what we call a dashboard. Okay, so a dashboard, as I mentioned earlier, is a combination of charts, and usually those charts have some sort of interactive meaning to allow us to set what we want. Okay, so how do I create a worksheet? Sorry, a chart, a dashboard. Again, we see this one here, it says new worksheet, but the one beside it actually says new dashboard. Where's the tooltip? Yeah, new dashboard. See that? And then last one is new story, which we'll get to in a sec. So we are going to create a dashboard. Everybody all okay so far? So here we go. So a dashboard is a way of putting, as we said, putting our charts together, but it is also very display oriented. So you can set the size of your dashboard to match this where you're planning to put it. Okay, so we have a couple of pre-built ones. One's called default, and then the other one's called phone. Okay, so I can get device preview here. Okay, so if my target is a phone, you can see that the size is different. Okay, so we can have different, everything is set because it's preset. Okay. So within our dashboard, we can set the various sizes. So we can have generic laptop, screen, laptop browser, web page embedded, okay, blog embedded, small blog embedded, column, A4, letter, etc. So these are all the different fixed size desktops. We also have another category, which is called automatic. It'll resize to any screen it's actually displayed on. And then we can have a range. Okay, so we can have a range of items. Okay, so for those who've just joined us, we are working our way through Tableau right now. So we created, we connected to our data. Let me quickly recap just for the new things. We attached ourselves to a data source. Okay, so we opened up different data sources. Okay, so we have an Excel file, text file, various types of files. You have less choice in Tableau Public than I have in Tableau Pro, but you can at least open up Excel files. Then once we opened up our Excel file, which is called Global Superstore, then we could create our data. So we dragged in orders here, we dragged in people to here, and it connected automatically. And we dragged in returns to here. Then it asked us how we wanted to connect. So we connected it from order ID to order ID. Okay, once we did that, all okay? Good, good, nice with the recap. Then the next thing that we did is we created ourselves a nice little bar chart. Okay, so our bar chart, the columns are the sales as a bar chart, and the color is actually represented by profit. So we can see immediately which items sell a lot but don't make a lot of profit or even cause us loss. So actually quite a few things that we sell a lot of cause us loss. So that we have two items of information that are available in our bar chart. Then we've broken down the whole bar chart into subcategories. So we have category, we have subcategories, and then we have product name. Those are our three breakdowns of these bar charts. Okay. Then what we did, we created a filter and we said show filter right here. so that we have a category here. We made the category into a single value drop down. And now it looks like a nice little combo box right here. Okay, there's our legend, etc. I can actually move the legend. Hey, can I? No, I can't move it here. Okay. Okay, so there is our worksheet, our first worksheet. Good. Now, our second worksheet, which we did, though for those of you who just arrived, the second worksheet we did, what we did to create this map, we just simply dragged country from here into the blank space, and then it created a map. It calculated the longitude and longitude of each country and then put a dot there. Now we make the size of the dot to be our sales and the color of our dot to be our profit. And now we have the second table. Now here we go. Now we're creating a dashboard. Okay, so here's the dashboard. What we're trying to do is we can actually choose different sizes for our dashboard. So we can have a range of sizes. We can have phone sizes. We can have fixed sizes and so forth. Okay. If you're just working with it, the best choice generally is generic desktop. It's probably the best choice. Okay. It just makes the things a little bit easy, a little bit bigger, or laptop browser. That's a good choice as well. Okay. That laptop browser is good. Gives us a little bit of extra room so we can see what's happening on the borders. It's really up to you how you want your dashboard to look like, where you're planning to put your dashboard, etc. Now, within our dashboard, okay, so now we created the size of our dashboard. We can put a title in our dashboard if we want to. Okay, we'll come to this, fixing this one up later. Then we can put in our dashboard our various worksheets, as well as different types of objects. We can put just in raw text. And remember, before in the early part, we had the one with the finding Bigfoot and it had a bunch of text, etc. Okay, so that was done with a text field. We can put in images if we want. We can put in a web page, even blank areas for formatting, navigation, download, extension, etc. Okay, so we have quite a few things. So what are we going to put in? We're going to put in our bar chart. Okay, so we just drag it, drop it, and there we go. There's our bar chart. And we're going to put in our country. Okay, so that's going to go there. Okay, it doesn't look very nice. I apologize for that because both of them are actually country is something that is, yeah, I can move it. If I move it down to the bottom like this, okay, then it looks a little bit better, but it's still losing information. Okay, this is just bad graphic design. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, so now we have our two charts. There's our two charts. And then we have our legends off to the side. And also we have our thing for choosing the subcategory. So what we're going to do is, first off, our legends. What we want to do is we want to actually put our legends somewhere here where they're taking up white space, but they're not actually taking up horizontal space. So what we're going to do is I click on More Options, and I click on Floating. Okay, so More Options, then I click on Floating. Now I can place it anywhere I want. Okay, I can put it there, I can put it down here, etc. Okay, so someplace where it fits. Sounds good? Now what I'm going to do is sales. I'm just going to hide it. remove from dashboard. Okay, so I'm just going to remove this from the dashboard. Not really useful information. Now this subcategory, again, I'm going to make it floating. Okay, so now it's floating. Now I'm just going to put it there. Okay, and you see how I've laid out my item now? So I have my 2 worksheets. I can just simply drag them. You notice I can move them around and Tableau will automatically resize them to make everything fit. Then I took all my legends. I got rid of one and the other one I moved into a safe white space there. Okay. So now I have my chart set up. Now gets the fun part, okay? So notice here, when I switch the subcategory, automatically this one switches. Notice that? I switch the subcategory and this one switches. But nothing happens down here, does it? But let's say I wanted to know, where do my machines sell the best, right? So I can then do here, so click under more options. And down here, there's apply to worksheets. Okay, apply to worksheets. And we're going to say all using this data source. Now, watch this, okay? So when I change, whoops, wrong one. When I change this one to storage, notice that my chart, my map also changes. Binders also changes. Tables. Whoa, now I can see something. Something definitely is going on here. I'm pretty good at selling tables in India, but I lose money in China, really lose money in the US. Mexico's okay, El Salvador, Cuba's okay. Okay, Brazil, Argentina, etc. So now I have a little bit more detail on my chart. Now what I can do is I can start. So we've seen we've got a kind of interaction, right? So now we built the interaction. We've identified that this title or this filter now applies to everything on this dashboard. This filter applies to everything on this dashboard. So it's very, very handy. Now I just change one place and all my data is updated. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can change my title. So I just right click up here. So I right click and edit title. And I can put information in my title if I want to. Okay. Sheet name, workbook name, default title, full name, username. Okay. That's the information. Okay. See that? So I can put that information there. So I have a title. The things that I can put in the title, I can put the name of the sheet, the dashboard in the title. I could put some of the worksheets in the title. I could actually put my own name in the title if I wanted to. Now, if I want to format my title, I can also change the font. Okay. Obviously, your fonts will be different depending on what you have. Okay. Just a general graphic arts rule in terms of clutter. Don't use fonts that are really hard to read. What we got? Franklin. Okay. So I can pick font. I can change the font. I can change the size of the font. I can change the color. So we have that. Okay. I can also, when I edit the title, I have more control as well. I can do the same things that I did in the format. I can do all that here, but I can also do that in the alignment here. Center align it as well. Okay, so now I have center alignment. Looking good? Looking good. Okay, now comes a more interesting one. I'm going to edit this title. Okay, and instead of just simply using sheet name, I can say sales for, and then I can actually put in values here. I can put in anything that's in my chart. I can put that in my name. Okay, so let's go for subcategory. Okay, sales for subcategory. And say okay. Now, if I change this one, watch what happens. Change it to phones, and it updates my title immediately. Not bad, eh? Pretty impressive. So now I have my title where I can do that, and I can change this one. Again, insert the subcategory. Okay, and now my integrated dashboard has everything. Not bad, right? Pretty good. Okay. So I've taken you through creating a chart, just showing you, just giving you a very skim indication of the kinds of things that are available to you. We've taken that chart, we've created a dashboard, we put them in a dashboard. Now we're into the second last step, which is to put all our dashboard together into what they call a story. So a story is a little bit more like, I guess if you think about it in terms of PowerPoint, it's a series of slides. So you would be leading the viewer of your data through a story. Okay, and your story, it's on to show, for example, before we made this particular change, this is what our sales were. Then after we made a particular change, this is what our sales were. And this is what our profit affected. This is what we did to analyze this particular problem, et cetera. Or we're starting at this particular spot, and then we are working our way through, exactly what I was doing manually with the sheet. You say we start out with our overall, then we zoom in, then we zoom in, then we zoom in, right? So all those kinds of things can be put in a story. Okay, so we're going to create now a new story. Okay, we're going to create a new story, and our story basically has called story points. Okay, so a story point is where you're showing a bunch, either a chart or a dashboard, or even a picture, even just text, etc. Okay, so we can add something like, say, for example, start with a bar chart. Okay, let's say I wanted to format that. Oops. Okay, I can change. What I did is I pressed format and then story. Okay, format and story. And then I can change the shading, put a special kind of shading on it. Okay, that's the background shading. I can change the size of the font, say 24-point font. Oops, that's the name of my story. Okay, so I just put in, basically customized it to my name. That was full name, story by, and then I inserted the field called full name, and it puts it in there as well. Okay, again, I can control the size. I can make it centered, and I can control the color. Okay, so you see all those things there. I can also control the, let's say, okay, so I can control the size of this. Okay, so there's my little story heading, and then I can put my chart in there. So I just press this little X here to get rid of the format story. And I go back and I'm going to put my sheet 1 down here. Okay, so start with a bar chart. That's my first story. Now I'm going to add, everybody okay with this? I changed, played around with the size and color, and then I changed my title. I can actually make it bigger. Okay, there we go. I can make my, okay, so I'm just getting it to align with my text. Okay, so I can also, should be able to, that's the height. Okay. So I have my story text, and then I have my diagram down here. Okay. So that's my first story point. Okay, that what I get across. Then I can add a new story point, just like that, either duplicate the existing one or start with a new one. I'm going to duplicate it. Okay, and then here is my new story point. Add a map. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this. How do I get rid of this? Nope. Oh. Just a sec. That's the wrong one. Okay, so I added a map. Okay, so there's my map now. So I have my map is on there. I'm trying to figure out how to hide. Nope. Okay, so I have my start with a bar chart. That's what the bar chart looks like. Then I add a map. There's my map. And then, of course, I'm going to add another story point. Okay, and this one is going to be called End with Dashboard. Okay, so start with the bar chart, add a map, end with a dashboard, and just drag my dashboard in here. Oops. And now there's my dashboard. Okay, so now my story has 3 different items. Okay, so I can save it. You can't save it in the thing, but I've got my story now. I can go now. I'm not sure if you have this in the Tableau public, but I go to presentation mode and I can see now there's the first page of my story. Then I can click on the second page of my story and I can end off with the third page of my story. press escape to go back to my storyboard. Okay, so storyboard has made up of story points. Each point will have some sort of text associated with it. And then it will also have either a dashboard or a worksheet associated with it. And that's how you tell a story. So you then apply more skills. Again, in the short course on storytelling with data, we go into more detail on this, but that's where you apply storytelling techniques to be able to actually get your data to tell an actual story of what it is that you're trying to get across to your audience. Okay, so now we have worksheets, we have a dashboard, and you can obviously add more dashboards, and we have a story. So now what we're going to do, last thing we're going to do is we're going to publish it. Okay, so we're going to publish it now. So how do we do that? Now this is where it differs between Tableau Pro and Tableau Public. Okay, so server, yeah, for the server, you need to be connected to the server. Now, I don't know if you did that already when you were registering for the course or not, but if you wanted to register for Tableau Public, what you would do, that's our hands-on session. Where's my Safari? Okay. Okay, so you go to sign in, and you sign in on not tableau.com, Tableau Customer Portal, you sign in on Tableau Public. Okay, so by signing in on Tableau Public, then you now get a screen. Okay, you get a workspace where you can save your data, and you can then show that to other people. Okay, I'm not going to sign in on the thing, but this is what you guys can do. If you don't have an account, then you can just create an account immediately. Very simple, just name, email, password, and then confirm the password, agree to the terms of service, make sure you're not a robot, and then you can create a profile. Okay, so creating a profile is the way to get your data published and available. If you have Tableau, Public, that's the only way you can save worksheets is onto Tableau Public. That's whereas with me using Tableau Pro, I have a number of ways that I can save it. Okay, so I connected to a server. So now here, for you guys, under your file menu, you won't have all this. What you will have is save to Tableau Public. Okay, you'll have a save to Tableau Public on your file. And then it will ask you, I think, to log in if you don't not already logged in. For me, under Tableau Pro, that same instruction is under server. Okay, so I can just say save to Tableau Public or save to Tableau Public as. Okay, so, oops. Okay, so I have to do a data extract in order to do that. Okay, so I go there. How do I do a data extract? You see here, we have live data and extracted data. Live data means that it's looking at the Excel worksheet, and anytime it's drawing a chart, anytime it's doing anything, it's pulling the data from the Excel worksheet. But extracted data means that it will load all the data from the worksheet and put it directly in Tableau. Okay, puts it in Tableau. Now I go to server, Tableau Public. Oops, that's published the data source. Go to my story. Okay, now when I go to server, then I get Tableau public, save to Tableau public as, and then it's going to ask me a name. Obviously, book 1 is not a particularly good choice. Okay. Okay, so we just call it decoding data with Tableau. Then I can save it, and it's going to be uploaded onto the cloud and left up there. Okay, and it's available to anyone who has a Tableau account. Okay, so with that, we have then, okay, then it's going to try and get on Tableau. And then we get this page here. I don't know exactly why that we always get that page, but not to worry about it. I think Elvis is still on Tableau somewhere. So is the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot as well. Okay, so that comes to the end of our little seminar right now. So we can move now into the questions and answers. Oops, let's go through our PowerPoint. So we connected, created a story, and then we typed in sources, measures and dimensions, shelves and marks. Okay, so shelves are the rows and columns. The marks are the little boxes where you can put stuff in, and we can have filters. I showed you that. And we can show you the dashboard. We can have floating or placed filters and charts, and we can apply the filter to all charts. What I didn't show you is we can use a chart as a filter. If you want to see that, let's show you that just very quickly. In my dashboard here, if I take this chart here, right click, oops, sorry, not here, here. Under more options, there's an option called use as filter. So what does that mean? Okay, actually, I'm going to use that one. I'm going to use the country. Let's do this one. Use as filter. Okay, what that means is that if I select, let's say, Australia, then this chart will organize itself only for Australia sales. Okay, so we noticed something weird about tables in Australia, and there we go. Now we can see what's going on. So we have some very deep red Lero wood table, adjustable height, Beavis wood table, some very deep red stuff going on. Some very sales, and that's what's contributing to this stuff. We go to South Africa, for example. Wow, everything in South Africa is making money. Singapore has 164. All of it is Barrick's coffee table. Okay, and it's all making money. So you see that? So now I could just simply, by clicking on any of the chart, then I can get information about that particular country, and this filter works for this chart. Very nice, eh? Very handy. Good. Okay, let's keep on. So I showed you that, right? Show you using the chart as the filter. Everybody okay with this? Good. And then I showed you story pages and story content. Excellent. Okay, and then creating a Tableau online account. You guys know how to do that. Logging in from Tableau. That should be straightforward. Saving your work. I showed you that. And then the next part is publicizing your work. So in order to do that, you need to be on the Tableau. You can do share, you can do star, you can do a number of things to publicize your work. Okay, and it's 3:55, and that leads us to the end of this part. Okay, where to go? Where to learn more? Okay, you can look at the gallery on Tableau Public. There's a data viz competition on Tableau from time to time, where you can put in your best data visualizations. There's a really nice website called Makeover Monday. There's a QR code for it if you want to go to that website. And then we have our short course, Storytelling with Data, and also you can play and learn and find out more things. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, we're into the Q&A section. Any questions from you guys?
At the same time, Thomas, I would like to help to show the QR code for the feedback, so
Yes.
that right, for those who join us,
Okay.
thank you so much for staying with us throughout this
Yeah.
2 hour section. So for this feedback form, basically just answering 6 simple questions to understand more about, okay, what are you looking for our next data related workshop, or anything that you would like to hear from majors. Yes, and of course, if you are interested to find out more about the course that Thomas keep on mentioning, storytelling with data, whereby it is subsidized up to 90%, you can also fill up the feedback form. Then I will contact you accordingly. Yeah. So yes, while you're filling up the form, it's very simple step. Just scan the QR code and then answer 6 simple questions. Yes. Yeah, for those who would like to ask questions, you can also switch on your audio or post any questions at the chat.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I believe that this is also a very interactive way to learn. And I also I also follow throughout the whole sections. Yeah, at least I will be able to create a dashboard and also story. Yeah, and have a better understanding about actually data analytics. Not necessarily have to go for coding. Instead, work on data visualization is also another good way to start with. Yeah. So thank you, Gilbert. Thank you, Chia Wei, for filling up the forms. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you would like to ask any questions to Thomas, you can also post it at the chat.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you so much for staying
Okay,
with
thank
us.
you.
Yeah. So Alice, would you like to take over?
Yes, thank you so much, Thomas and Fie, for
Okay.
this session itself.
Mm.
Just let me take over the screen. So just one quick one. I think I've also dropped in the chat window. If you could help by giving us the feedback about the startup hack session today. On the next one that we are curating, we will be looking forward to your feedback on how we can better improve on our session also. So meanwhile, have a good Saturday ahead, and the recording will be shared via our YouTube the next 2 weeks. Do give us your feedback via this QR code also, and yes, look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So
Bye-bye.